Labour are rattled.
Yeah.
They're rattled.
They're scared.
Streeting is rattled.
They're going down. They're not popular. I mean, this is the worst start for any government. I think Keir Starmer is the worst ever Prime Minister, and it shows in all the polls. His popularity has sunk.
Keir says Khan wouldn't work with reform to look at employing more police to tackle knife crime, which predominantly affects black youths in London. That's how much he cares. So that was what it was. So instead of dealing with the issue and saying, you know, we all need to work together, this politicking comes into play once again.
Yeah, I think it's a bad characteristic to be stubborn in politics. I really do. I think sometimes you need to deal with a cross-party approach. But just to be so principled, I think it's a misguided principle, but just to be so principled to say, reform, I don't want anything to do with it. I think that's so counterproductive.
Well, it's actually pathetic, and it's not what he should be saying or doing at all. But I'm afraid that man, for me, another one that I think is an absolutely appalling person.
Did you know that a significant wave of discontent has emerged in the Labour Party directed at Keir Starmer? What happens when deputies who were once his staunch supporters begin to distance themselves from him? This isn't just discontent, it's a revelation. They not only expressed their grievances, but also uncovered shocking secrets that could jeopardize his political career. From Tulip Saddiq, the former finance minister, to Dan Carden, Rosie Duffield, Andy MacDonald, and other parliamentarians who have either been suspended or turned against Starmer, we gain a startling insight into the true dynamics within the party and how Starmer is handling it. These frustrated deputies have shed light on the real situation, and it has enraged Starmer. He buried his face in shame and desperately tried to silence them.
I think Starmer's one of the worst prime ministers we've ever had, and he's only been with us 81 days. But look what he's done in those 81 days. He's allowed the Chancellor to go ahead with a scheme where 4,000 pensioners could freeze to death this winter, and those are Labour figures, by the way, not Tory figures, OK. He's introduced a raft of policies like energy, which could make us dependent on overseas energy ad infinitum, so dictators around the world will control what we have in this country. Never mind the sleaze. I mean, goodness gracious, he stood up in the Commons once, looked across the box at Boris Johnson and said, sleaze, sleaze, sleaze. There's never been a sleazier Prime Minister. Never been a sleazier Prime Minister.
Then Keir Starmer.
Never.
So what makes you call him sleazy? Sleazy's an interesting word for you to use.
Well, if you're walking around in other people's suits to try and improve your image, I saw one...
Well, it's his suit, it's just paid for by somebody else.
We have just uncovered a shocking truth. Keir Starmer intentionally appointed a man to the Cabinet of Ministers who has been convicted of lying to the police, fraud, and deception. How could he make such a choice? The answer is both simple and alarming. The entire government is essentially fraudulent, and in July 2024, they misled the electorate by presenting distorted information about their plans regarding taxes, the economy, Brexit, and Britain's international relations. If you want to delve deeper into how they manipulate us, check out my column in the Daily Mail. But that's not all. We have seen Labour Party MPs resigning, unable to tolerate Starmer's actions any longer. Rosie Duffield's exit from the Labour Party serves as a clear indication of significant cracks in Keir Starmer's leadership. As the MP for Canterbury, Duffield stepped down during the freebie scandal, accusing Starmer of fostering an environment of negligence, nepotism, and blatant greed. Her resignation was a major blow, highlighting ethical concerns within the Starmer government. Duffield openly criticized him for accepting extravagant gifts, designer suits, expensive glasses, and even access to a penthouse valued at £18 million. Meanwhile, his administration has been implementing austerity measures, such as limiting allowances for 2 children and cutting winter fuel payments, which, according to her, disproportionately impact the most vulnerable members of society.
So anybody who calls out two-tier policing is a far-right extremist. If the security minister thinks there's not two-tier policing in this country, then quite frankly, Mr. Speaker, he needs to get out more. Because this report actually states that anybody who calls out two-tier policing is a far-right extremist, and grooming rape gangs are an alleged problem. Does the Minister agree?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The point I was seeking to make earlier on, and I'm happy to reiterate to the honourable member, is about the importance that we on this side attach to supporting...
Stay tuned for further developments, because there's more to come. I share the sentiments of these Labour Party councillors. Our so-called leftist job opportunities have vanished almost overnight. The public isn't naive. They voted not just against the Tory government, but also in favour of the Labour Party. Yet, we have failed to deliver on any of the promises we made over the past 10 to 14 years while in opposition. I no longer recognize this as a Labour government. Everything I fought for alongside my colleagues and leading cabinet ministers, such as restrictions on allowances for 2 children, issues affecting WASPy women, and winter fuel payments, all of it, which was meant to combat child poverty, was wiped out in an instant. I cannot, in good conscience, call this a Labour government. In her resignation letter, Duffield delivered a scathing critique of Starmer's leadership. She portrayed him as a leader surrounded by a tight-knit group that prioritizes personal gain over public service, which, according to her, has tarnished and humiliated the legacy of the Labour Party. She also highlighted Starmer's management style and his technocratic approach as factors that have alienated both party members and voters.
The Prime Minister knowingly appointed a convicted fraudster as his Transport Secretary. The anti-corruption minister he had full confidence in only days ago resigned yesterday in disgrace. He is negotiating a secret deal to surrender British territory, and taxpayers in this country will pay for the humiliation. Now it turns out his government may write a cheque to compensate Jerry Adams. This is shameful. We left him the fastest growing economy in the G7. In just 6 months, under his leadership, it's been taxes up, borrowing up, mortgage rates up, and that's not all. Business confidence is down, jobs are down, growth is down. Can the country afford 4 more years of his terrible judgments?
The criticism highlights widespread dissatisfaction within the Labour Party regarding Starmer's reluctance to tackle politically sensitive issues, likely due to fears of backlash. Additionally, allegations of favoritism and bias in appointments further damaged Starmer's reputation. Reports indicate that he hastily appointed his supporters to high-ranking positions in the civil service, bypassing merit-based procedures, which raises serious questions about his commitment to impartiality and competence. Such actions, noted by think tanks like the Institute of Public Administration, suggest that the leader is more concerned with consolidating his political power than with ensuring effective governance. And now, we are witnessing a mass exodus. Less than 3 months after taking office, Keir Starmer has lost one of his most promising rising stars, Rosie Duffield, the Labour MP for Canterbury. The situation is evolving right before our eyes, and I suspect there are many more intriguing developments ahead. For those who attempted to trivialize this story, following closely behind Boris Johnson and the party scandal, I believe this is merely the tip of the iceberg. Rosie has stated that Starmer is unfit for his role and, for some inexplicable reason, prefers to don designer suits while implementing harsh and unnecessary policies.
I don't think anyone thought the first 100 days of this Labour government would be so chaotic. I expected them to be bad. I didn't expect them to be this bad. Now, I speak to people out and about, and it's very much now, it's us and them. These were meant to be for the working man, for the working woman, but they're getting freebies, they're getting use of an £18 million penthouse, they're getting free clothes, free glasses. You know, Lord Ali is like an ATM machine, they can just go and withdraw money. This is embarrassing, and I don't think Labour are going to get rid of this label now.
So, what lies ahead for the Labour Party? Some believe they need a complete overhaul, a new leader, new policies, and so forth. Others think they should simply weather the storm and hope that voters will forget the current turmoil. However, it's crucial to remember that the Labour Party has encountered similar challenges in the past. Do you recall how, after the elections, many believed the party was on the brink of collapse, yet they managed to bounce back? The real question is, can they do it again? One thing is certain, the grassroots members of the Labour Party are dissatisfied. They are witnessing their party fall apart and are unwilling to sit idly by. If Starmer doesn't address the situation soon, he risks losing his position. As time passes, Labour must find a way to connect with both those who wish to leave and those who want to stay before it's too late.
The police. We think that the police do an incredibly difficult job, and whilst he might think that I need to get out a bit more, well, perhaps the honourable member might like to consider spending a bit of time with police officers on the beat in his constituency, in his area. If he were to do so, I'm quite confident that he would see that they are exceptional people doing difficult work under difficult circumstances, and there is a real risk that by seeking to progress this narrative, it undermines the importance.
Additionally, Duffield delivered a sharp critique of gender dynamics within the Labour Party, attributing the issues to its predominantly male environment. She mentioned that if Starmer were to be removed, she would consider returning to the Labour Party. This underscores that the primary reason Labour MPs are departing is Starmer himself and his leadership approach. As a result, analysts believe that a movement to replace Starmer is already underway to safeguard the party's future in the next election. However, I foresee a significant storm on the horizon. See you soon.